everybody, and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Taylor Rockwell, and today we've got big-name designated player signings in Major League Soccer. We've got Leagues Cup knockout round, some Bruce Arena chat, Joe enraging the internet. It's going to be a great show. With me today to talk it all out, I've got the instigator himself, the man who only wants tap-ins. Hello, Joe Lowry. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I've been crucified for my take that designated players were coming in to save your season.
Strong start from Joe.
You know, that's how I feel, Taylor. And what are you going to tell me, that I don't feel that way? That maybe I would prefer personally if my team's new DP wasn't coming in, dropping and like waxing poetic about how much he loves to shoot from distance and loves to do crazy stuff. That's just me. But I'm a nerd, so do with that information what you will.
Jeff, I think it's important to say, not just a nerd as Joe, but also a hater of fun. For you, do you enjoy joy and excitement, or are you more so team tapping?
It just like in doses. Don't take it too far. You don't want to be all fun. No. You want to have a little bit of that. You need your vegetables
real quick
before you can go on to the pixie sticks on the side of your plate.
Please stick around. Please stick around and listen to us. We do have fun. Jeff and I both like fun.
No.
Lots of it.
It will just be data and strong, convincing points along the way. I'm excited for it.
And soggy Brussels sprouts. Yeah.
I'm most excited to talk Thomas Muller up front, which we do have top of the running order. I have not been, I believe, on an episode since Thomas Muller joined. I think last I talked about him, it seemed like it was going to happen. The wheels were in motion. It felt like he was going to be arriving in Vancouver. Arrived he has. A press conference he has given in which he pretended to be a goat, I believe. He answered some questions in very Thomas Muller fashion. And then he has played a game, Joe. He's been on the pitch. It's exciting times.
It really is. My favorite part of the transfer window, like talking to folks around the league and talking to folks at teams, like, you know, this is such a fun time of the year because you get all the narrative drama, and you and Jeff could talk a ton about, like, you know, how will Thomas Muller even get to Vancouver? How will this work out? You know, what roster mechanism is going to make this happen? And that's going to be interesting and fun. But then the dudes actually get on the field. And this is, for me, it is so much clear of the field. That is the thing that I enjoy most, is looking at how these guys actually want to go about their business in Major League Soccer. And we got our first taste of Thomas Muller in the MLS world at that presser, which was awesome. It was, as Jeff said, multiple GOAT impressions, both young GOAT and old GOAT. Very good GOAT impressions of Thomas Muller.
For people who didn't watch it?
I think it's mostly, it's one of those things where it's like if you ask an American to do an English accent, everyone goes London. But if you have range and you can take you to different parts of the country, it's more impressive. So for him to go through the lifespan of a GOAT, I think he's just showing his range.
You know, it means something. What it means beyond Thomas Muller is a showman. I'm yet to really determine. But I had a great time. If folks can tell, I did watch the Thomas Muller intro presser, but I was skipping through to find a specific section of it. So I stopped for the GOAT bit, and then I just sped through, and I didn't see what came before it. The thing that stood out to me most from Thomas Muller's presser, and this relates to his debut, Taylor's eyes are, I can't tell if they're glazing over or if they're gearing up for 12 follow-up questions.
The second.
The quote from Muller that stood out to me the most in his opening presser was about how he would fit in Jesper Sorensen's system and sort of how their visions aligned. And the quote was, we play active, and that's what I loved all my career, to play active soccer, to have the foot on the gas and to control the game. And then he added later, when I talked to Jesper Sorensen, I think we were aligned and we think very similarly about the game. That's Thomas Muller talking about how he wants to control games but wants to play up-tempo and high energy. But that's the whole question about Thomas Muller. 35 years old, turns 36 in September. We've talked about this on the show many, many times. Will he have the legs? I don't need to rehash that argument. The dude's old. He's played forever. Like, can he do it? We've seen superstar after superstar come to Major League Soccer and either not care or not have the ability to execute and actually track back and do the defensive dirty work. And there's a moment, just about 15 minutes into Thomas Muller's debut, where it's not quite full Wayne Rooney, and I know you guys know the moment I'm talking about, where Wayne Rooney tracks back all the way and slide tackles, wins the ball, and bombs it up to Lucho Acosta, and it's a great moment for DC, maybe their best moment in the last decade. It's not a moment like that. But it is Thomas Muller sprinting back on his horse, shout out horses, and recovering the ball that would have otherwise been recovered by Amin Bassi if he had just given up in that sequence and allowed the play to play out. And he then kickstarts another attack for Vancouver. That moment was huge, I think, for the Whitecaps. Now, I'm not trying to anoint Thomas Muller as like this, wow, defensive X factor because he did something 30 minutes into his career for Vancouver when everything is happy and rosy and he's not tired and all the other players are because he's come on as a sub. There's a lot more proving to do, but to have Muller actually back up his quote about how he wanted to play on the field when so many others before him have never even efforted to do that, I do think is a huge positive. Even though Vancouver ended up drawing 1-1 off of this wonder goal from Artur that he scores to level it late in the game, I think the takeaways for Vancouver coming out of Sunday night were basically all positive because Muller looked really good in every phase on Sunday.
Joe, like right off the bat, do you agree that like he and Jesper Sorensen are on the same page? Do you feel like they do have commonality in their approach or what they would like their approach to be?
If we assume, because I never asked Thomas Muller about this, if we sort of set aside what he said and assume that he enjoyed playing how Bayern play, generally speaking, right? Not that there haven't been ebbs and flows, but a dominant club in their league, dominating the ball, controlling possession, controlling where the game is played. Yeah, I think he makes a lot of sense tactically for this Vancouver team. If you think about the ideal version of Thomas Muller, someone who's played in those systems and has the energy to counterpress, made a ton of his money off the ball in possession systems, but still has so much quality, right? That went underrated because he was playing on teams with, Philip Lahm and Kimmich and, Musiala. And you run through the list, right? It's sort of a weird conglomerate of players that I just tossed out there. But like guys that are known for their distribution in different ways in different parts of the field. Muller is not that. But he was going to be a really useful possession player in MLS. So I think the tactical setups were a really good fit. Like Vancouver play like a big club in Major League Soccer this season under Jesper Sorensen. They did not before, they do now. And that generally means that Muller won't have to be on his horse running all the time, but that he will have to do some of it. And that he actually did, I think, is really notable, honestly.
Jeff, where are you on the introduction of Thomas Muller? How much stronger does it make Vancouver as we head towards the final stretch of the regular season and the playoffs?
Well, I think it does provide, going back to like April, we had talked about the eventual return of Ryan Gold as this sort of inevitable like re-evolution of the Jesper Sorensen machine, which I thought was going to be really useful because by the time that they reached the CONCACAF Champions Cup final, I think MLS had started to catch on to their wiles and started to figure out what they were trying to do and how to neutralize them. And Vancouver was starting to drop results that they previously were running away with. They were struggling to regain results that previously they could sort of like snatch and grab. And so they've had to do some of that reinvention. About a week before Muller was confirmed, Jesper Sorensen was on a local radio show, just like a Friday morning segment. And by the way, support your local radio coverage. Like I feel like when we talk about like,
go listen to the radio. Come on.
But like when we talk about like coverage of the MLS ecosystem, like I think we focus a lot on like there are a lot fewer writers these days than there used to be, right? But I think that the radio programs are still going on. You can listen to them on the simulcast. Like it's a good sort of variation. Anyway, Sorensen's on one of these shows, and it's just asked like a very general like, okay, we have to talk about this every week. Ryan Gauld, do you have any updates? And you can hear the host is kind of just waiting to get into the next question like 5 words later. And Sorensen suddenly like prognosticates like a sort of like not when but if status for Ryan Gauld that we hadn't heard at any point this year. And they needed that sort of high-level reinvention of a player who's not just going to change how they play slightly and work into what's already working well, but a player who can actually win close games that they were never able to really win against LAFC in the playoffs the last 2 years in the first round. So in comes Thomas Muller, who I think will be able to find very natural pockets of space behind Brian White, who has been one of the best line-leading center forwards in Major League Soccer for a couple of years, but especially this year, and needs some help in the final third to finish off chances. I think that he has some really good dynamic wingers. I loved the shift that Jaden Nelson put in.
Agreed.
Another one of those, like, and he's had a few of those, really going after Griffin Dorsey, which I think more teams should do when they play Houston. Like, I think that he is someone who can get into those advanced positions like a Brooks Lennon or whatever, and that there is usually space to be found. And so the left winger can have a great day, depending on how proactive Griffin Dorsey is being. Just give and take, right? But I think between that, Emmanuel Sabi also looking really good on the ball, I think that there's a really natural pocket for Thomas Muller to operate in. Now, granted, you're trading off some midfield stability, but when you got rid of Pedro Vite, you already knew you were going to be, right? So now you can have a pretty coherent double pivot behind Thomas Muller and still have two runners on either side who are doing the hard yards and a center forward who can win the headers, and Thomas Muller can kind of float. Like for 62 minutes, I think it was 61 minutes, Muller was on the bench, right? And instead they had Jeevan Badwal, the homegrown, the Canadian prospect who has scored his first MLS goal this year, play 61 minutes as number 10. He got 17 touches, really kind of struggled to find the game. They brought in Muller for 29. He got 27. Yeah. So, like, he will find his time. He'll find his space. He'll find his pockets. 19 and 23 passing is good, too. Like, he's finding his teammates. I think it's a very natural slot for him, and usually when we talk about MLS as a league for number 10s, we should also say it's a league for second strikers because like there's such different roles, but I think that a lot of the same spaces present themselves. It's just about how they're going to be used, and I think at this point he is going to be doiting some fresh realm that is presented to him by his teammates.
That's awesome. Wow. Jealous I didn't say that before you, or think of it before you. Jeff, I love that you talk about the midfield shape for Vancouver, right? And you're spot on. It was a 4-2-3-1 from the jump from Jesper Sorensen. And you and I talked about this before. We texted about this. Like, what would this look like for Vancouver when Thomas Muller arrived? Because the Whitecaps have mostly been a 4-3-3 team this year, right? And that's been their defensive shape. And their attacking shape, it's often looked like a 2-3-5 or a 3-2-5 that we talk about all the time. But with Thomas Muller, even before he stepped on the field, Sorensen shifted that shape. Not that we hadn't seen a 4-2-3-1 ever this season. We've seen it in bits and spurts. But that is, even if Thomas Muller is defending at a level greater than our doubts about him, that still does not mean he's going to defend like JC Ngando in that midfield, right? Where if you're playing with Ngando and Berhalter and Kubas, you're just a buzzsaw, right? That's Steve Cherundolo's dream midfield right there. Like, I mean, that's just that's really what he stays awake thinking about. That's
why he's leaving the league, because he never got. He saw that midfield and it wasn't his. Yeah,
like that's been the backbone of Vancouver this year. You go through and look at their goal scorers. They've got a goal scoring by committee approach. Like, they have been sort of an attack by committee team outside of Brian White, and they've had to be without Ryan Gauld, as you've detailed really well. But their strength has been their defensive ability, and so I am curious if that shape change and Thomas Muller's positioning in that shape change as that number 10 has a knock-on effect going forward. It didn't really against Houston. Like, it was an unfortunate goal to give up, and they were the better team, Vancouver, on the day. But maybe it will. Even if Muller is doing the dirty work and playing at a pretty impressive level defensively, he will not be the same player. Can he compensate for that on the attacking side? Can Sorensen pull other levers? I'm just fascinated by Vancouver right now. Like, they're a really, really interesting team, and Muller's a huge part of that.
Who do you think has a bigger impact at the tail end of the season, Thomas Muller or Christopher Velde? Jeff?
I think Thomas Muller.
You sure? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. So we're going to pivot over to Cincinnati versus Portland, which was a game focused on one DP. And so here I am sagging to a completely different DP who has not yet seen a blade of MLS grass or turf. So Portland Timbers have announced Christopher Velde. We hinted at this when Joe and I were...
Is it Velde or Velde? Is it Velde?
It might be Velde.
All right. Either way, Christopher. Let's go that route.
Chris, while I look up a goal call I can play on my headphones and confidently say one way or the other. Sign him. He has a press conference, and in it, the winger, who is Norwegian, he has played in Greece and Poland. These are kind of where he's done the best of work of his career so far. Talks about how he loves Christopher Velde, as I was saying from the start.
I think you actually may be right. I think Velde feels very Norwegian to me.
Yeah, but he's Norwegian and Argentine, so it really just tosses the whole mix. Let's just pick one and go with it, and we can repent later.
We'll say Velde for now, because that was the question I first had, and we'll go from there. And this one guy on a Europa League call said Velde, and I'm pretty confident they will have done research, because that is a difficult competition to commentate. I digress. He says that he loves shots from outside the box, right? And it is one of the things that he wants to make as a first impression. Usually when you have these press conferences with designated players, they're just going to try to tell you, like, hey, did you see my highlight reel? Here's what it would have had, right? And so it'll be, I like to, pass the ball. I like to get the tempo going. I like to take shots and, get fans out of the seat, whatever. Usually you speak in generalities as well, because you don't want to be known as the guy who does this trick before you've even played these opponents. So the long shot thing looks kind of bizarre already, because you're sort of showing your hand. good friend and a scholar of mine, Joe Lowry, posts on Blue Sky, I would love it if my new DP was saying how much he loves shots from outside the box, and then replied, obviously this is sarcasm. And there were a lot of Portland fans who took issue with that in Umbridge and said that Joe doesn't like fun. Which I know for a fact isn't true. He vacations in South Dakota.
I mean, come on. Wow. The peak. The pinnacle.
But I think...
You're making me to James Milner. In his spare time, he measures rulers to make sure they're
Right.
accurate.
This one's actually 11.9 inches long.
Send it back. Get the refund.
He wants exactly room temperature water. He figures that one out. Yeah. Joe's a man of many talents and a spicy.
Yeah, if you don't drink your water room temp, you're asking for trouble with your digestive system. That's all I'm saying.
Hey,
That's right.
You're
That's
every
right.
Turkish mother I encountered.
Ooh,
Every
Turkey is not
single
for
one
me.
of them.
Did you sleep under a fan? That probably explains why you have a broken foot.
Oh, I do sleep under a fan. Oh no! Oh no! It's the temperature.
This is remarkable. Welcome to the roast of Joe Lowry.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Portland loses Evander's homecoming 2-3. Let's start with that because this all works together. The Christopher Velde discussion. Cover your bases. We can edit one or the other out. And what we saw against Cincinnati. What you saw with Cincinnati is Evander loved that first half of that game, right? Celebrating an assist and a goal like he just won MLS Cup and really kind of pushing the tempo and relishing in the fact that every touch was soundtracked by booing. And he was as good as he was in the MLS Skills Challenge sponsored by iShowSpeed or whatever his name is. Then you get to the second half, and Cincinnati's structure, the issues that they've had all year, the reason that they're not runaway shield contenders right now, where they just they're letting in kind of cheap passes, the midfield's a little easy to break down, some defensive lapses, and they just kind of took the foot off the gas a little bit. Portland gets 2 goals back, still ends 2-3. Okay. I understand wanting a player with a pedigree to who has played in the Europa League and has played for Olympiacos. Granted, there isn't a great transition hit rate of players going from Greece to Major League Soccer. There also isn't much of a sample size, so it's not even really worth remarking on a widespread trend there. We will see. There are good players everywhere in the world. What's hard is that when you look at this Portland Timbers team, they don't need more elements of surprise. They don't need more on his day, he's going to really, put a defender on skates and have his way with them. They need sure things right now. They do not have someone who is going to guaranteed set up enough shots on target and chance to create it every single game where you're confident they'll show up on the box score like a Diego Valeria or a Sebastian Blanco. And yes, Sebastian Blanco had some of that. He can shoot from deep. He's unpredictable, but it was also the unpredictability worked because he could do the predictable stuff so well. And right now, there just isn't anyone on Portland that I'm really confident outside of David da Costa to do that sort of stuff. And you need more than one player who can be that sort of metronomic figure who is actually going to be able to dependably keep you on tempo. And right now, of all of the teams in the playoffs, which is, 47 of them? 18 of them, I'm being told. They have the lowest expected goal differential, by far. A negative 6.5. It is in the territory of your DCs and your Torontos, your Galaxies,
wow.
right? This is the level of underperforming this team is because they have these chances. You have Kevin Kelsey also getting that sort of retribution goal against Cincinnati. The reason that Cincinnati didn't want him was he wasn't consistent enough and wasn't clinical enough. And again, moments are good. But right now, this is not a squad that has been built with those dependable players, and they're not being given the sort of coaching guidance to be able to get them into those dependable habits. Yeah. Where I think that it's just every game, you have no idea what you're going to get with the Portland Timbers. And so to throw in a guy then who's my big trick is to take shots from outside the box, which generally will have a 5% or lower chance of being converted. That's not where I would want to put a DP slot. Again, just like MLS squad building things, you kind of need to make sure your surest players. It's wise to overlap your surest things with your highest paid players. It's a good way to make the wage book look soluble. Yeah. And it's a gamble. It's absolutely a gamble.
And the Velde quote was like the latest thing on the pile of, wow, this is going to be a really interesting spectacle when this guy debuts. I mean, Jeff, you and I talked about him before because you're talking about a $5 million fee from Olympiacos to be a DP. That's real money still in MLS. Like, there are bigger fees flying around, but that's not nothing by any means. And his track record is not amazing. You go through and look, and his best season was a 10-goal season playing for a good team in Poland. And he's really, had the bulk of his career in Poland and now coming from Olympiacos. You look at the players that have had good years in Poland that have come to MLS. They have not dazzled by and large. So, I mean, I had concerns about that already. And my whole thing, and I was just trying to have a little fun on the timeline, Like I don't need to be married to these things forever. I'm totally open to him being a really impactful player in MLS. That is absolutely possible, and I don't doubt that it's possible. But generally speaking, everybody likes to shoot from distance. Like, anybody who's ever gone and messed around playing soccer likes to take a long shot. And I know we're overanalyzing this quote, and it's turned into something special here.
But I think it's actually a useful entry point into the Timbers. I'm sorry, like, I know we're making a lot of the quote, but I think we needed it.
You're not wrong. Like, it has summed up Portland in a lot of ways because they're not a disciplined tactical team in the attack under Phil Neville. Like, they don't have clear-cut patterns of how to create chances. So much of it is on the individuals. But yeah, everybody loves to shoot from distance. Like, that's not unique. That you are undisciplined enough to do that often is a concern. Like, that's just how it is. I'm not against shooting from distance ever. Of course, you should shoot from distance from time to time. There'll be moments where you have space. You might actually be exceptional at it. Like, it's unlikely, but it's possible. In which case, yeah, you can shoot from distance a little bit more often than somebody else. But every person who's ever kicked a soccer ball on a soccer field likes to crack one from long range. So that's just not interesting. It's not insightful. It is like an orange flag for me. For Portland in general right now, I'm just worried. Like, I'm worried about them as a team. Now, credit to them for getting as much business done in this window as they have. They've taken a swing on a DP. We'll see if that lands or not. They've added Felipe Carballo, who's been unveiled already, hasn't debuted yet, but he's with the Red Bulls last year and helped them on their run to MLS Cup. I think he's a good, if unspectacular, MLS central midfielder. They've also added Matias Rojas, who was in Miami last year, then moved back to South America. He is, I think, another useful MLS player. I'm not sure if he's a starting level player in this league or not, but he's played for a lot of big clubs and can certainly add something on the ball, which the Timbers need. Because you mentioned outside of David DaCosta, Jeff, you're not really sure what the sure things are. I'm not sure David DaCosta is a sure thing. Like, you go through and look at his numbers,
too.
and you watch him this year. Like, he's been fine. He hasn't been great. He hasn't been terrible. He's been fine. And part of that is because he's played with like a not best in class attack. If you give him Jonathan Rodriguez back on that left side, or if Velde is really, really good, different story. So I'm not trying to chuck the baby out with the bathwater and say that DaCosta can't crack into this league, but that he was an all-star was ridiculous. Like, he has not been that level of player. There's just a lot of questions around Portland and whether or not they can grab all these pieces and toss them on the field and they'll mesh together between now and the end of the season is the biggest question of them all, and that they have all this happening in the background, which is more positive than negative. Like, Portland have done work in the window. That is good. That is to their credit. And I think they've added some good pieces. So I'm not trying to just say it's all bad. But I have concerns about how this all fits together for Portland between now and the end of the season, and that all of that's happening while your old superstar is coming and cupping his hand to his ear after he scores a banger on you. Bangers are fun, by the way. I don't know if you guys haven't heard. Like, long-range shots, you should do more of those. Like,
yeah, they should do more of that.
That Evander is cupping his hand to his ear while expletives are raining down from him from the Providence Park crowd, and while they're booing every single touch, unless it was a bad touch in that case they're cheering. It was an awesome game, just not for Portland. So we'll see what the rest of their season looks like. But there's a lot up in the air right now for the Timbers.
I have one more question about Portland for you both. A couple questions about Cincinnati. Let's take a break. We'll come back and round out our chat about that game and those two teams. Back soon. Welcome back, everybody. All right, a question for you two relating to our new designated player signing, Velde. When Portland attack, Joe, are they more likely to overcommit numbers to that attack, or are they more likely to keep more numbers back and try to kind of like make sure they have a stable base when they attack?
I think they tend to have a fairly stable base. I think about the personnel in their midfield. It was David Ashala and João Ortiz who started in the double pivot of a 4-2-3-1 against Cincinnati. Those players are not, wow, I need to go and create chances in the final third kind of players. And they keep two center backs, at times even three center backs if they're playing a 3-4-3, which we've seen plenty this year as well, back. And you get Juan Mosquera moving forward. You get Jimmer Foray moving forward from left back at times. but they've got strength and physicality across that back line and a pretty workmanlike double pivot. They do trend, I think, towards being at maybe at worst like a balanced team, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. You just need the attacking difference makers to be that. And now that Santi Moreno's gone and J-Rod's out for the year, that is not really, it hasn't been on the cards in this interim period for Portland.
All right. That makes sense to me, and that gives me a little bit more confidence in the signing of Velde, because you've talked about the shooting from distance. The other sort of knock on his game that I saw for myself is that he can, I think, trying to create that shooting opportunity, trying to create a good angle for a shot, can hold on to the ball too long and can be dispossessed. And so if you have somebody who's taking a shot from distance that can be blocked, and if you have numbers overcommitted, that can leave you exposed to the counter. If you have somebody who's holding onto the ball too long, moving centrally, loses the ball, that can leave you exposed. So that would give me more concern if I were Portland, except that if they have the numbers back, if they have that kind of more stable foundation, then maybe that leaves them less exposed to the counter. Maybe it allows him to have a little bit more fun, a little bit more creativity, and for Joe to find his joy. Jeff, we've talked about the concerns for Portland. Do you have any lingering concerns about FC Cincinnati, top of the East at present?
Yeah, just a lot of leaky goals that continue to go through, and I think that since Pat Noonan took over, it's been very clear that defense has been a crucial part of their ideology and something that they want to emphasize, and they don't want to be another team that's shipping in 70-plus goals a season, which is good and smart, and that was something that Alan Koch and others should have tried sooner. The difference here is that the personnel on the tin, at least when you're reading the label, should be there for it, right? Between having Miazga and Robinson as 2/3 of your back line, I think is a very good way to operate with center backs in MLS for quite some time. However, there's often a lot of space. Roman Celentano, in my observation, I was speaking with a different goalkeeper coach, not Cincinnati's, in Major League Soccer last week, and actually Celentano came up as this example of a goalkeeper who doesn't leave his line terribly frequently, and therefore he kind of has to absorb. And the goalkeeper's concern was basically just okay, how is he going to age? Because as the agility starts to drop even a little bit and he doesn't have the same athleticism, what is his game going to be? So that's the evolution for him. That was pretty much the full point this coach had. But right now, that also does show, if you have, for example, there are sequences where Matt Miazga will leave the back line and engage in the advanced part of the midfield, not even as just kind of another pivot in midfield, but actually really progress forward and then try to play aggressively to link up with Evander and Kevin Denke. And it works very well to catch a team unaware, but the flip side is then if you turn it over, if that pass from Miazga to Evander or from Evander to Denke gets turned over, you're very susceptible right now, and Miazga does not have the legs to be able to get back into place. And right now there's just a lot of open space and a lot of maneuverability where once you get past that middle block of the defense in midfield, you can actually find your looks pretty consistently against the Cincinnati team. And there will be teams that will punish that more than others. There will be teams that won't know how to do with it, and they will lose 1-0 to Cincinnati. But I think that there's still just are some facets, especially defensively, that maybe I assume would have been cleaned up by now. And maybe part of that is as simple as the midfield has never been steady and hasn't had the same personnel available to them. But just interesting this year where Cincinnati, we all knew that this was going to be something of a transition year, going away from Acosta and to Evander and Denke leading the attack. But I think that we had assumed that the growing pains would be felt in that end of the field, not their own defensive third.
Joe, do you want to annoy any Cincinnati supporters the way you've bothered Portland, or do you feel like things are largely okay with Cincinnati aside from the points that Jeff has already made?
No, I think Jeff makes good points. This team has been a weird one all year. It feels like they have lived on their talent edge a lot, and that gets dicier the closer you get to the playoffs because your scope of teams you're playing against is narrowed to the good ones by and large. So I have some concerns about them, but they seem like a really good team. Evander's amazing. They're getting a little healthier. Their injury list is still quite long. That they've battled through a lot of this season with a long injury list is a credit to how deep they are into the roster that Chris Albright and that front office has built. So I don't have massive concerns about Cincinnati, but I loved this game on Saturday. This game was amazing, and Portland and Cincinnati both played their parts in it. I had so much fun. It's one of the most fun games I've watched all season long. So shout out to both teams.
I had slightly less fun, it sounds like, than you did when I watched LAFC versus the New England Revolution, a 2-0 win for LAFC. But I did watch it, and I did enjoy it. And I'm going to blow everybody's mind here. Son Heung-min, Pretty good. Makes LAFC tick a little bit more. Is definitely the player that I think can create something from nothing. Is definitely the player that is looking for passes that no one else is looking for on that team, and definitely elevated LAFC the moment he was on the ball. So I feel like that might be a smart signing. I don't know who he is or where he came from, but a good signing by LAFC.
Taylor, I want to hear more because I want to flip it back around to you. So you watched this game. It sounds like I didn't know how much of what you'd seen. Like what more specifically? Like what kind of stood out to you about Son and how he fit into this team, and what did you like? Was it just the distribution stuff? Not that that's nothing, of course. Like what popped out to you from Son?
So I think it's largely the control and the influence, and there are just those players where you can see, like, to pause there for a moment. Like, there are moments in this game when a player will receive a ball with their first touch and it pops up, or it goes a little bit too far away from them. And some of that is maybe the quality of the players, some of that is maybe the turf. But either way, it can lead to kind of unpredictable moments and just kind of chaotic decision-making. Ceballos, I think, has one where he goes to kind of clear a ball and almost puts it on his own goal and then is celebrated as though he's made a really good defensive play, when in reality that is definitely not what he was aiming for. And by contrast, Son just looks so poised on the ball, so calm on the ball, and can play very quickly when he needs to, can play 1 and 2 touch passes, but also seems very press resistant, not surprisingly, seems very okay to kind of evaluate options even under pressure and then find the smart pass. Rarely did I see him giving the ball away, except for when he was either playing a pass that nobody saw coming and thus they weren't making the run, or he was trying to kind of probe the opposition defense for vulnerability or looking for opportunities to play through balls. But then oftentimes he ended up just creating something from nothing, be it a shot, be it a pass, and he just felt like a difference maker. There was a difference in quality. It's not surprising given the player we're talking about. I know I'm not breaking new ground in saying that, but it's just another signing that, like, yes, advanced age, yes, they paid a lot of money for him, yes, there are concerns about, how do we make him not the next Olivier Giroud? Could he be the next Olivier Giroud? I think that's a fairly unfair brush to paint with because I don't think they're particularly similar players. But I think with all that said, I watched this game to see how he did and to see how comfortable he looked, and my goodness, did he look comfortable for this team.
Yeah, I think, Taylor, you're spot on there. There's a moment where it's a corner kick for LAFC on the right side, and Son, the ball ends up popping out to Son, and he settles it and like sort of creates space to shoot and fires off a shot that goes wide. But that he generates a shot from that moment, I don't think you see a lot of other players in MLS generate a shot like that. It's the same with Muller, right? And we saw it with Rodrigo de Paul when he makes his debut for Miami in Leagues Cup, and we've seen it since then. Like, these guys are amazing on the ball, and they were really good on the ball relative to their competitors in better leagues. And so now you drop the quality of the defensive play in MLS compared to where they've been before. And yeah, it's a little playground-y for players like Son Heung-min. So I really enjoyed that part of his game. He gets the assist to close out this game for against New England, excuse me. And it's a very patient moment where it sounded like you were maybe alluding to this earlier. Like Son could have gone and taken it himself, but decided to go for basically the sure thing and made a really good choice. He was quick to play a through ball or pull out a dummy or do a lot of the on-ball orchestration stuff. I still think LAFC could stand to find him a lot more, frankly, on the ball.
Agreed.
This was not a very well-played game, I would say, from LAFC as a whole.
Also
New England
agreed.
are really bad,
Yeah.
not a hard team to beat, even with Matt Turner, who looked really good in goal in this game. The midfield trio of Igor Jesus and Tim Tillman and Mark Delgado just doesn't have enough playmaking verve to it.
No.
To the point where I just cannot imagine that John Thornton doesn't know that when he watches this team. LAFC have an open DP spot. I'm to the point where I would be surprised if they're not spending that spot on someone who can create chances from central areas. Like, it just seems so clear to me that is where the hole is. It's been the hole all season long. But while LAFC didn't have a great game, Son still popped. Denny Bouanga also didn't have a great game. And that takes me to the concern I have about Son. Everything we've said so far about him I think is true, net positive, and I think it's pretty clear at this stage. But the concern I have about Son is with him playing as the number 9, there are multiple moments in this game where, because he is a player who wants to make a difference on the ball relative to the players around him, he is not making hard, aggressive runs towards goal, while play is developing specifically down the left side where Denny Bouanga is one of the best players in the league at beating somebody on the dribble and either driving into the box himself or playing a ball across the face of goal for a runner to arrive and just flick it on towards goal or take a one-touch shot or whatever it is. And Son, almost whenever Bouanga would progress down the left side and fire off a ball across the face of goal, Son wouldn't be there. He would be hanging back at the top of the box waiting for the ball to come back around so that he can then have the full range of vision to play passes to the left or passes to the right or to take a touch and to take a shot on goal. Son was hanging back to be the playmaker rather than to be the runner, like the goal scorer in this game. It happened over and over again, like glaringly so. There's a moment in the 72nd minute. There's one in the 31st. I've got it in my notes somewhere. 31st minute. And these are like high-value chances that don't actually go down as shots because Son isn't making the run. Now, Son doesn't have to make that run. Like, there are 9 other outfield players. There's 8 other outfield players on the field who can go and make that run. Denny Bouanga's on the ball. Son doesn't want to make the run. There's 8 other dudes who can go and do that, theoretically. But somebody has to make the run, whether it is Son deciding to shoulder more of that classic number 9 role, or whether it's David Martinez or Nathan Ordaz or a late-arriving runner from midfield. Like, somebody's got to do that because Bouanga would have looked far better in this game if he'd been playing with Nathan Ordaz through the middle. Like, just Bouanga. Now, that is not the most important thing to LAFC. The most important thing is that as a whole, they're playing good ball. It's not all about Denny Bouanga. But Bouanga looked bad in this game, partially because he wasn't as sharp as we've seen. But he also was having his opportunities that he created go down as nothing burgers because his teammates were not on the same page. So that's got to get ironed out for LAFC before the playoffs. Like has to. Because if they're playing a team that's not New England, they're in some more trouble in this game than they were. But still, net positive, I think, for Son. He is changing how LAC can play, and he's given them more avenues to create, which they've desperately needed. But there is more work to do here. So I'm eager to see what that looks like going forward.
I think in another team with maybe another coach, I don't mean for this to be fully a shot at Steve Cherundolo, I would be really interested to see how they progress in terms of the fluidity of their approach and their lineup, because there are moments in this game when I also saw Son take up a position on the left and Bouanga move central.
Yep, totally.
And okay, I wasn't sure if that was just like the moment I happened to pause the screen and look at things, but that felt like a deliberate rotation where they're trying to see kind of, can they catch the defense out? Will somebody over pursue? And then there's a space to attack in behind. But I think that also leads to some of what you're talking about, Joe, and then there's a direct ball that doesn't come off or doesn't connect. And that's one where, like, with a different, not even with a different coach, I'm just interested to see if that gets better, if that becomes a rotation we see often, and if they're able to execute it more effectively, or if it's a thing they're trying just because there's 2 guys who kind of want to be on the left, and we got to see how we can kind of accommodate them both without really having that central attacking figure. So I want to see how they evolve. I want to see how much more fluid they get in that attack. But I will say, with Son, my final point on him would be the confidence and kind of a little bit of swagger that I feel like we haven't seen from him in a while definitely felt like it was on display, and that's been a recurring thing since he moves to LA, aside from silly introductory questions. Like, he talked about how much he wanted to immediately integrate into the team, how he wanted to go on that away trip to Chicago, how he was like really, really trying to get the visa pushed through and make sure he had it because he wants to be part of this team. He wants to get the ball rolling. But then he goes to Chicago, he goes to New England, and he's getting cheers. He is getting people showing up to watch him play, and he talked about how that is such a foreign thing, that when you go on an away trip in the Premier League, maybe you get a few applause, but for the most part, you're getting a lot of boos, even if you're a new signing, even if you're very exciting. And so I just think he moves. It would be easy for a player to move from the Premier League and being a central figure for a top Premier League club, and also Tottenham, to Major League Soccer and feel like, it's a step down. I'm a little bit humbled. This isn't where I thought I would be. But it feels like instead he's really excited to be with this team, and now he's seeing that there are a lot of people who are excited to see him there. And I do wonder if we see him do new things and do new exciting things and kind of recapture some of that swagger that I would like to see him have, and I think would make LAFC better. So,
and
I'm
I
excited
think that
for him. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, to that point, I think he could have almost more of a roadshow pull long term because he actually shows up.
Yep.
Unlike another kind of generational talent from outside North America who's currently in Major League Soccer playing in the southeast corner of the country. Like, if you can dependably say, I don't care if it's Bridgeview or Gillette, like, Son Heung-min is still going to show up. He'll play anywhere.
Yeah. I mean,
like, he's already kind of had 2 of the worst possible venues, and he's already been.
A point made in The Athletic or The Guardian, I forget which one, that it's basically his first 3 games are at Chicago on the Bridgeview field where the turf was odd, or the ground was odd. Then it's Gillette Stadium on turf. Then it's Dallas under construction Toyota Stadium in summer in Texas. That will be an interesting introduction to Texas for him, I'm guessing. So It's three sort of intimidating games in different ways for him, but he'll get used to
not
it quickly.
Competitive ways. Yeah, no, it's a very much a crash course on this is the league you're in now and where it was once. Maybe not where it's gone, but
I have one other weird moment from this game that I wanted to mention. Matt Turner obviously in goal for New England. There's a moment when a shot pass kind of deflects and rolls through to Turner. And Son goes out of his way to pursue it, waits for Turner to kind of fall on it and collect, and then Son kind of falls on top of Turner, and then gets up laughing, and they both kind of high five. And for a moment, I was like, "Oh, they're old buddies." And then I thought, "Are they old buddies? How do they know each other?" Well, that was a level. I don't know if that was just "Hey, Premier League friends," and then they high fived and on they went. But there was a lot of
maybe
there was a convivial atmosphere there, which again felt to me like a player who is comfortable in a new setting, having fun, but also playing well. So my
I don't
question
think
for you
that
both
you
is,
need to treat your rival's old backup goalkeeper with scorn. I don't think you need to.
Right.
I think you can just
imagine if that was Scott Carson in goal for the Revs instead of Matt Turner. I think they would have hugged for a long time. Frankly,
minutes.
That's the kind of bond that's created between a person who's a star in the Premier League and a depth goalkeeper. For another rival. Yeah. That's just what it is.
So go ahead, Jeff.
Just one other thing quick on Son. I fully agree with Joe. Just it was such a clumsy fit with center forward. I don't get why that's where they're going with it. They were already starting to work with different shapes than this 4-3-3 at the Club World Cup and after the Club World Cup in particular, both in the Leagues Cup and in league play. And it was so clear to me that you needed to have Son playing somewhere else and not center forward because he's not going to do center forward stuff and he's not going to operate like the center forward you wish Olivier Giroud was. So there's just this mismatch of profile where it almost seems like a coach who has 10 regular season game left and then is just well, someone else will have to figure this out anyway. So let's just get him in a spot where maybe my vision can win and everything else I've been training the other 10 players into, even if it means our best player is no longer playing in a role that's suitable for him. I don't really know, and that's a strong stance to take, but I don't really know what else to frame it as other than an unwillingness to make changes to make sure your two best players are in spots where they can succeed. Right now you have that with Bouanga, and I do think that there is a natural, and I wrote about this a couple weeks ago, I do think that there is an obvious place to put Son in. It's very similar to where Thomas Muller is going to be roaming for the Vancouver Whitecaps, which is with someone who's actually doing line leading work, and then he can just kind of operate and be the Hoover who collects the ball and then either gets it to the right feet or scores himself. But this version of it, it's exerting energy on things that you didn't really bring him to do, and it's also exerting energy on things that other people on the squad are doing better. So I don't know. I just it continues to perplex me. I've always had these sorts of tactical confusion about, or maybe not so much tactical as lineup and shape with Cherundolo, and this is another one that almost is even more glaring, where it's just just try finding the clever solution here, because it can be there. And eventually, yes, the team did wake up. It was nothing to do with the changes. Cherundolo made 3 changes, and none of them came before the 70th minute. 2 of them came, I think, after the 78th. So we'll see. Maybe there were concerns about depth and about usable depth and the quality of the bench on this day, whatever the case may be. But one very, very last thing. Matt Turner looked like Matt Turner in goal for his first 2 games, and I think that that's really encouraging. For all of the reasons that we've been saying that we need to watch the performances of Chris Brady, Matt Freese, Zach Steffen, Patrick Schulte very closely. Turner needs these games to show why he's the best in the pool, and I think right now, to be fair, he's already on his way.
Yep. Thus far, he's played 2 games, 180 minutes. That is about half the minutes that he played in all of last season. So that's good.
That's true.
At least.
Yeah.
Joe,
that's something.
How are you feeling about Matt Turner back in Major League Soccer? Is there a softer landing spot for him than starting against DC United in your first game?
No, that's the dream come true. Anytime you have a chance to do that, you jump at it. Yeah, Turner's been really good for New England in back-to-back games. It didn't end up mattering against LAFC. They still lost that game, but he's been really sharp, pulling out impressive saves. It's the place to be for Matt Turner right now as far as his USMNT future is concerned. He's been a big plus for the Revs so far. It's been a win-win-win.
All right. We're going to take one more break. We're going to come back, talk a little Leagues Cup, a little bit more about the weekend that was, including San Diego leading the Shield race. Let's do it soon. Welcome back, everybody. I have the Supporter Shield table in front of me, and Joe Lowry, we have an expansion team top of the standings. We all saw this coming, right?
Yeah, this is wild. An expansion team has never won the Supporter Shield before in MLS history. Obviously, that does not include '96 when all the teams were new. This is sort of uncharted territory. I've been hoping to get a line on, is this the latest in the season that an expansion team has ever been leading the Shield race? And was sort of told that's going to be really hard to look up, and I have not yet looked it up myself. So I'm just going to say, it. It's the latest. This has never happened before. This is the latest in the season an expansion team has ever been in the lead for the Shield race. And if you think I'm wrong, go ahead and prove it. And then I'm tricking you into doing my research for me. Nailed it. San Diego San Diego beat San Jose 2-1 over the weekend. Philly lost 2-1 to the Red Bulls in a wild swing for Philly, to stick with them for just a second. They were the last of the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal games to be played against the Red Bulls because their game that was originally scheduled for last month was postponed due to weather. And so they have a game against the Red Bulls in the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinals on Wednesday. And then they travel to New Jersey to play the New York Red Bulls, the same team they just played a few days earlier, in MLS regular season play on the Saturday, and they lost. So they won the Open Cup game and lost the regular season game. And they've seen their grip on the Shield sort of slowly start to slip between that draw with Toronto at home and the loss to the Red Bulls over the weekend. And San Diego capitalized on that. Their 2-1 win over San Jose put them on top of the Shield race. We've talked a lot about San Diego this year. I don't know that we need to do like a huge long thing on them here. Marcus Ingvartsen, though, kind of was the story of this game. This is a double-digit Bundesliga scorer who's missed a ton of time this season with injury. He gets back for his first MLS minutes in 2 months and scores an equalizer on a header and has a delightful through ball to Anders Dreyer for the winner, for the assist there. So Ingvartsen is adding another body to this team, another healthy body, which they need, and he looks like another player who can be a difference maker for them. Like this game had the best and worst of San Diego. It had the best because you saw the individual difference makers doing that stuff, and it was the worst because they gave up a, when playing out of the back goes wrong, goal inside their own box when CJ Dos Santos gets pressured by Noel Buck and they go down 1-0. It's Josef Martinez who scores that goal, and it looks like San Jose are going to win this thing, but San Diego wrestle it back. So again, worst and best of San Diego. They're a really good team. Like, they are a really, really good team and deserve a ton of credit for all of the many reasons we've talked about them glowingly this season. Even though it feels weird that an expansion team is leading the Shield race, that it is San Diego leading the Shield race at this point in the season does not seem strange to me.
St. Louis, were they near the top of the Supporter Shield at any point in their expansion?
I've been going through right now just for Joe's peace of mind here, like the great expansion team seasons. Joe is right. There has not been an expansion team leading the Supporter Shield right this well. St. Louis was atop the conference at this point. However, they were like 7 or 8 points.
Yeah, the West was
the
tragic
Shield
that season. Yeah.
Yeah, it really, really was. And then you look at like Seattle, they were in third. New York City and Orlando were both out of the playoff places. The Chicago Fire were second in the conference. So yeah, it is genuinely an incredible achievement here. I do still have my concerns about CJ Dos Santos in goal there. I think that is... Like, there, some people, I disagree with the characterization that soccer is a weak link game. I think it's much more about the trade-offs you're willing to make for the gains that you're going out for that day, which is subtly different, I suppose, because it's more about balance than blaming. But I do think that when you look at the level of goalkeepers that tend to be successful in an MLS playoff bracket and are able to dependably project to win playoff games, they don't usually make the mistakes CJ Dos Santos makes, or certainly the one that led to this goal against San Jose. And so that is something that I still am very concerned about. I love the Anders Dreyer crowd silencer, though I want to say, why? Why did he do the shirt off and point to the back of his jersey like he's Messi at the Bernabeu? Like, I don't get it. I don't get doing that to poor PayPal Park. That's already gone through enough over the last decade, might I add, the faithful there. But also, like, a fun moment for Franco Negri, who was very good with Miami. People forget until he tore an ACL and Jordi Alba showed up while he was injured, and then he never got to see the field again. Luca Bambino's obviously been getting a lot of really good minutes at left back, but really made a difference from the bench. I guess I'd kind of like to spin this. Is there anything else on San Diego? Because I contrarianly...
I think we've hit them a
I
ton.
think you've just that you've missed that it's the historic San rivalry. It's Saint versus Saint, and that's why when you've got that much bad blood, you've got to take the shirt off and point at the back.
Yeah, the Dos Santos derby. I get it. Okay, fair enough. I think when you look at...
That was really good, Jeff. I got to give you credit for that
you.
one. Nicely done, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm like, I didn't laugh because I was more so in awe of how quick that was. Well played.
It found me. It just presented itself. and part of that is because the Quakes have been worth examining a bit closer this year, so I think I've put more thought into them, so the puns flow freer. I like went into this game kind of wondering, like, seeing, okay, the Earthquakes, they're in 9th in the Western Conference. I think that generally we've been talking about the West on this show as there are like 4 very good teams, 2 or 3 pretty good teams, and then everyone else is going to be like trying to find a backdoor into the play-in round. I think that the Quakes have actually been good this year, but totally they do have obvious flaws. I think that the biggest number that you really need to look at is they are 2nd in Major League Soccer in points dropped from leading positions. And that explains all of it. They've now dropped 19 points. They dropped 3 here. They're only behind St. Louis City at 21. So that is a team that has already let go of its coach. There's general manager who is under a lot of duress, right? And granted, that is a multi-year pun. I don't know. That's earned over years and years of misperformance. 2 years, in fact, for St. Louis. They're not that old. But when you look at San Jose under Bruce Arena, they are 9th in expected goal difference, so like very inverse of like how Portland is doing, where they are like giving up far more chances than they are creating for themselves. They are ahead of San Diego and Minnesota in expected goal difference, by the way. So like underlying numbers really like what they're doing in terms of chance generation and chance prevention. They are 3rd in ball recoveries per game behind Central Sports' New York Red Bulls and Bradley Carnell's Philadelphia Union. So they are going out there to claim balls. They're also 2nd in winning aerial duels, and so that's something that can project to get you possession anywhere on the field. There's still some questions about personnel, and obviously there's still some questions about if there's enough of a supporting cast around Christian Espinoza. Who is Chicho Arango at this point of his career? I think we've sort of figured out that Joseph does know how to be more of a secondary scoring option, and is maybe like a little bit, he's been humbled enough where he's willing to change how he approaches the role from what he was doing with Atlanta before that terrible day in February 2020. It's fun to watch. Like they're very fun to watch. I think that they're on the right track. My only question is this as far as they're going to be able to push it, which is Bruce Arena can get us back to the playoffs. Bruce Arena can get us playing some very good soccer, but because we don't have the players who can kind of wrestle control of games away like other teams in the conference and frankly most other teams in MLS these days, are they always going to be held back by that, which then comes down to ownership and willingness or unwillingness to spend commensurate to the trends of Major League Soccer. Yeah,
it's interesting on the spending front because San Jose were multiple times back in the winter and then again in the summer, they were interested in Lucho Acosta. Like they were not unwilling to spend.
Which is not a good sign about their recruitment.
No, it's not in a way, although if there's anybody who could fix Lucho Acosta, Bruce Arena feels like maybe the one I would put at the top of that list. But San Jose have been really good. Like I agree with a lot of what Jeff said, that they are 9th in the West. Does come down to the quote that Bruce Arena dropped at the end of this game, his immense frustration at their inability to hold on to leads. He was talking about how this team doesn't play like they're a very well coached team. Like I don't think we're a very smart team, that we're losing he kind of waylaid this team a little bit, and it's earned in some respects because the reason that San Jose's expected goal differential is so high, that they've been a good team this year, is because they are the best attack in MLS. They have created more and better chances based off of non-penalty expected goals than any team in the league. The reason why they are in 9th in the West is because they're a tragic defensive team. They've allowed more chances than all but one team in MLS this season. So they've been this year's LA Galaxy. Like they've operated on the extremes, and they have not managed to close out games at the level of how the Galaxy did last year. That's the concern. The nice thing for San Jose is that the problem is obvious. Like how you fix that problem is less obvious, but the situation is very clear. We need to limit the number of chances that we're allowing while preserving as many of our own attacking chances as possible. And San Jose have, despite the fact that they were trying to grab Lucho Acosta this window, which I don't know how that would have fit, they have done a really good job this window of starting to address those needs. They've added Ronaldo Vieira at the base of the midfield. We have not seen him debut yet, but he's a 27-year-old defensive midfielder coming over from Sampdoria over in Italy. He dropped this quote. Speaking of new signings giving quotes, he had this quote in his press release for San Jose. Quote, "I describe myself as a ball winner, a guy who breaks the other team's attack and then just gives it to the guys who can go and get the goals." Some of those quotes and pressers are clearly typed up by a PR person. That one smacks of, oh, this dude actually said that. I don't know if he's any good. Never seen this guy play in my life. but they need a ball winner. They maybe need more than that at the base of their midfield. But between the rookie center backs that Bruce Arena has continued to unearth throughout his MLS coaching career, and they drafted multiple of them, Reed Roberts and Max Floriani this past Super Draft, and adding now a ball winner, clearly identifying that as a need and planning for it and going out there and executing on it in the window. They've got a DP spot open to play with as well. Like there's a lot to like about this team. If anybody is interested in selling San Jose stock after they continue to drop points, I will buy it, because I think this team was a wooden spoon winner last year. They were the worst team in MLS by a mile. They are not even close to that. I would be surprised if they didn't make the playoffs. Not shocked it's MLS, but I'd be surprised if they didn't make the playoffs. I would not be surprised if they won a series in the playoffs this year. And I think they're clearly building towards something that paints them as one of the better teams in Major League Soccer. It's early days, but I really, really like what San Jose have built.
Really, really quick, there are 3 teams right now, fun with numbers. Let's create narratives with numbers. This is a thing we love to do. 3 teams are in the top 6, and I use top 6 because there are 30 teams in MLS. It's just way too big. Top 6 of possession gains in the attacking third. So your high press is working, you're taking the ball off opponents, and you're trying to counter. Like this is Gegenpress 101 sort of spaces, right? 3 teams in the top 6 that are also in the bottom 6 of facing the highest XG per shot. So, like, basically what this is telling me is that a team is really trying hard to get the ball back soon because they know that their defensive third can't hang. And so they're doing their best to, like, kind of press them away from shooting zones. But once they get back there, like, there's some difficulties and you know, you can hear, like, the strings of Psycho playing in the background as the ball gets into the box, right? Those 3 teams, San Jose Earthquakes, number 1 in high regains, and 4th worst, or the 4th friendliest expected goals per shot conceded. You have the New York Red Bulls, another team that I think that we've generally looked at as, like, they're really good. They do some fun stuff, but they also have some flaws that are going to hold them back from winning MLS Cup, right? The 3rd one, San Diego FC.
Nice.
So very, very interesting to see how San Diego is going to project. They're playing a style of soccer that generally works incredibly well in the regular season, but how they'll get by in the playoffs, I think a lot of it will be determined by the center backs and CJ Dos Santos more than Anders Dreyer and Chucky Lozano.
One final question for you all, or at least one final topic to be discussed for this week. Let's do a little Leagues Cup chat, shall we? We've got our quarterfinalists. I forget how the format works.
The semi-quarterfinalists.
Semi-quarterfinalists. Inter Miami versus Tigres, Toluca versus Orlando City, Seattle versus Puebla, LA Galaxy versus Pachuca. We all had the Galaxy in there, right?
Totally, 100%. Yeah, the Galaxy's only hope for salvaging this season is in the next 2 games of Leagues Cup, right? It's the top 3 teams that finish this tournament, so the 2 finalists and the winner of the 3rd place game that books a spot in CONCACAF Champions Cup next year. And if you can do anything to make Ricky Poo smile, it would be giving him a chance to beat up on other teams from around the region next season. That is the only thing they have left to play for effectively this season. So, yeah, I'm shocked that they're there, but now that they are, that's the only thing that they have to care about.
I'm guessing you all have not watched every single game, because how could you? There's too much to watch. How are you feeling about these matchups, though? How many MLS teams do you think we will see in the next round?
Oh, wow. I've thought about this 0 and did not know.
Here, Joe. Let me pull up the matchups for us.
2.
Ready? Inter Miami versus Tigres.
Tigres.
Push. Yeah, I tend to say Tigres as well, but we'll see. Toluca versus Orlando City. I don't know enough about Toluca to project.
Toluca's real good. Toluca's real good.
They
Orlando also real good, by the way.
So then, yeah.
Liga MX side.
I'll say that's 2.
Yeah, okay.
You're going to say Orlando?
Nah, yeah, I'm going to say Toluca.
Okay, there you go. Seattle Sounders versus Puebla. I'll actually take Seattle in that one.
Same.
And then the LA Galaxy versus Pachuca. Probably not.
Yeah.
So 1.
Okay, so 1. I guess we're going 1 collectively. Yeah.
So here's my beef with this whole scenario we found ourselves in, where we're at the semi-quarterfinal stage of the Leagues Cup. And this last weekend, I went to what I thought was going to be the MLS game of the weekend, which was Minnesota United versus the Seattle Sounders. And you had a 3v4 in the Western Conference. Seattle has been talking a big game since the Club World Cup. Obed Vargas telling me, like, we should win every MLS game 3-0 because we've hung with PSG and we've seen the level, and there's no reason that we should be stressing. I love it. Like, let 19-year-olds talk into microphones more.
I guess, yeah.
Especially when they play soccer and they have to back it up. And all of this is going on in between. So this big game, this massive game that you can't avoid. This isn't an international break where you can opt in, opt out. We'll play more Wednesdays, whatever the case may be. Nope. This is how MLS has designed this sucker. and you have to go to Minnesota for one of the most important games of your regular season right before a midweek game in this tournament that we co-created with Liga MX. There were no designated players in the lineup for the Seattle Sounders. They were rotating out. I mean, like De La Vega, Rusnak, like those are two guys you would assume would start in a playoff game for them, right? Osaze De Rosario, bless his heart, was starting at striker. He's probably their fourth choice striker if everyone is healthy. There were two golden chances. One of them where Dane St. Clair completely left his box. Mind absolutely left him. He was off in Minneapolis somewhere, not St. Paul, because fun fact for you all, Allianz Field is in St. Paul, not Minneapolis. And no man's land. Osaze pretty much unmarked in the middle of the box. They get the ball back to him and he skies it. Not great. Second one is a header that is pretty clear as day, and it's one of those where it's just like, yeah, Jordan Morris might have missed it, but I'm pretty sure Danny Musovski would not have. And so game stays 0-0. Minnesota gets a set piece. Minnesota gets a ball to sneak past Stephen Fry and through the box untouched. Joaquin Pereira didn't try to get a goal, but he got a goal. 1-0. There you go. Minnesota has the advantage in the Western Conference for the rest of the season. And why are you doing this to your own stretch run? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you throwing this competition in, this distraction competition, where some teams are playing, some teams aren't, in the most interesting part of your regular season? I don't understand why you would want to cannibalize that interest. The Leagues Cup, keep in mind, they originally started with like 4 teams from each league, whatever. But this version of it, where you're growing it and making it a marquee summer event, was standalone. You paused the regular season until the Leagues Cup was done. But this sort of alternating back and forth, you're kind of forcing your teams to punt on the most important part of your season, where they are setting up their seeding for the playoffs. So now the playoff hierarchy, it's pretty much like if you were in the Leagues Cup, you're probably going to finish worse. And I don't really know why we're punishing teams for ambition here, but I don't know why you're curating the schedule in a way where a team probably can't actually care about the regular season if they want the money and the path into the CONCACAF Champions Cup by winning 3 games instead of 10 more or whatever it would take to get to MLS Cup. So just really frustrating. It felt like a lot of avoidable scenarios here where, one, do you need a Leagues Cup? What is it even achieving anymore if you have a Campeones Cup and if you have the CONCACAF Champions Cup actually telling you who the most important team in the region is? So I still don't really know the mission statement of the Leagues Cup, if I'm honest, and that doesn't make any of this easier. It's a sideshow, it's a distraction, it's noisy, it's making MLS even more difficult to present itself, because they've gutted so much of the peripheral stuff. When you look at Extra Time being gone as a podcast, when you look at how much stuff on Apple Season Pass that they have pared away at and left it pretty bare bones at this point, they don't even really have the people on staff anymore because of all the cuts they've made to get messaging right so that people could know, here's who's in the Leagues Cup quarterfinal and here are who are in the playoff places at the same time. I don't understand what they're doing with this Apple deal. Sorry, this ended up getting so off the track here, but it's the point, kind of, where there's just so many of these other things where it's just these sort of half-hearted little dabbling in a Leagues Cup, half-hearted dabbling in these sort of broadcasting without actually covering it like a credible first division league. I just don't really know what they're going for at this point with the Leagues Cup and with their coverage of it. I love the people who are actually part of the coverage still. I think that they're absolutely best in the industry sort of thing, but you've taken away so many of the people who help them who are also best in industry. We know that they can do it better. They did it better in 2023.
Yeah, on the Leagues Cup, I was prepared to disagree with you because I'm quietly a Leagues Cup apologist because the games rule consistently. They are some of the most fun soccer games on the calendar, in any region. The League One group phasing part 1, round 1 of this tournament was
when games matter less, you can try more stuff, right? So you can have a little more fun with it.
I guess that's part of it. But I agree with you, Jeff. I don't really know what the mission statement is for this competition, and this is the latest thing in a long line of things where MLS has tried to devalue its regular season. I absolutely agree with you. Even if I have a soft spot for maybe this tournament continuing at some point down the line, or continuing next season or whatever that looks like, it is impossible to disagree with what you're saying. They are putting more pressure on other competitions outside of the regular season, and that is what MLS has done. They have been unwilling or unable to figure out how to make their regular season more appealing to a broader group of people, and that's a huge miss. That's your biggest offering of games, and you continue to just belittle it through various means. So on that, we completely agree.
And you know what's funny? we say that, and I couldn't agree with you more about the, like, they don't really know how to, like, promote its own regular season. The fact that this happens the same weekend that Evander is getting, like, all of Portland to boo him in unison, it just kills me. Like, the stories are there. Just tell them. You have a guy who felt like he should have won MVP, but felt like the team he was on was holding him back from these conversations. So he moved to a team that can win trophies more, or is in contention for trophies more consistently. But now he's going back to the other side, and they feel slighted because they feel like he should have brought them there. Every sport loves that narrative. Every team sport is fueled by those sorts of player returns to stadium thing. You have Matt Turner versus Son Heung-min. You can do something with that. There are games here that are absolutely worth elevating to this magnitude. But if it's not David Beckham's ex-employer versus the team that David Beckham helped sign the paychecks for, like, I don't really know if this isn't the talent, this isn't the producers of the segment, these are the people who are telling them from above how they're supposed to cover these things. I don't think that they're getting the right messaging whatsoever, and I think that it leaves it, I feel for that group, I really do, because it's pretty clear that the priority is above editorial, just from the outside. Like, I as someone who works in, like, these editorial spaces and can see how these sorts of things can influence how coverage goes from beyond the personnel's control, I recognize some of it, and I empathize, certainly do. It's frustrating.
So we're all excited for the quarters then?
The semi-quarters, yes. I think it'll be great.
Beautiful.
The 12.5-cent pieces. Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah. All right, well, Jeff Ruda, thank you for all of your thoughts today, and for not annoying Blue Sky, I hope.
I probably have. I just don't look at the replies all the time. It's healthy.
It is healthy. I don't even look at Blue Sky or Twitter, so that is also pretty helpful. Joe
that
Lowry,
is healthy.
I know you're forced to do the looking at the socials medias. I apologize to you for that.
Nah, lots of fun, Taylor. Had a good time.
Listeners, hopefully you all had a lot of fun as well. Hopefully you're enjoying the Leagues Cup stretch run and the MLS regular season stretch run and the transfer window stretch run. It's a lot of stretches. We'll talk about some transfers that have happened or that will still happen next week. But for now, thank you all for listening. We'll talk to you again soon.